This is a case that happened in my country, Brazil, and that had a lot of repercussions because those involved were powerful people linked to the religious and political environment. It's a complex case that contains some conspiracies, so it's good to pay close attention to better understand its outcome. Flor de Lis dos Santos de Souza was born on February 5, 1961, in the city of Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil. She was raised in Jacarezinho favela, located in a neighborhood of the same name in Rio de Janeiro. This favela is considered one of the most violent in Rio de Janeiro and is estimated to have 37,000 residents. At age 14, Flor de Lis lost her father and brother in a car crash. As her family was very poor and was going through great difficulties due to the loss of her father, she started working as a clerk in a bakery at age of 15 to help out at home. Her mother, Carmel Mora dos Santos, was evangelical, and Flor de Lis used to attend services with her on weekends and became part of the church choir. Still in her teens, she engaged in social causes and began to help children and adolescents involved in trafficking, drug abuse, prostitution, and the ones who suffered abuse at home. In 1979, she graduated as a teacher and left her job at a bakery to start teaching in the children's network. At the same time, she was in a relationship with her first boyfriend and ended up moving away from the church. Later, she became pregnant with him and their relationship began to break down and they separated before the child was born. Flor de Lis decided to raise her son alone. She went back to church and had other relationships, but none of them worked out. She also had 2 more children. In the 1990s, already working as a missionary, she met Anderson do Carmel, who would become her husband, while holding a cult in Jacarezinho favela where he lived. At the same time, Anderson was still a teenager and 16 years younger than Flor de Lis. He used to frequent her house where she lived with her 3 biological children and other 4 adopted ones. Unlike the other young people who sought refuge at Flor de Lis' house, Anderson had no family problems or relatives involved in trafficking. Despite being born and raised in the favela, he had a relatively good life. He lived with his parents and was finishing high school at Peter II High School, located in San Cristóvão neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro, considered a public school of tradition and national quality. As he was a very articulate person and easy to communicate with others, Anderson quickly became a leader of the church's youth group that was led by Flor de Lis and her mother in the favela of Jacarezinho. He was seen by many as a foster son of Flor de Lis. He later began dating Simone dos Santos Rodrigues, her biological daughter. Later, Anderson separated from Simone and then started a relationship with Flor de Lis, marrying her in the church in 1994. According to his mother, Maria Etna do Carmo, who died in 2020, Anderson had only 2 girlfriends in his life. One was Simone and the other was Flor de Lis, the one he married. Still in 1994, the couple adopted a baby who was found in the trash, which they named Rayane, and soon after adopted another 33 children and adolescents who, according to Flor de Lis, were all survivors of a massacre that took place in the square of center from Rio de Janeiro. It is said that a couple welcomed the children as children and their routine became very exhausting. There were not enough clothes or diapers for the children. Many had lice and contagious diseases such as scabies, and there was no medicine to treat them. Money was very scarce, and sometimes there was even lack of food. And to make matters worse, the guardianship council was after the couple alleging that they were taking care of the children illegally, as they did not have any adoption documents, and also did not have any orphanage properly registered, and according to the authorities, this characterized kidnapping. The couple then decided to flee so that their children would not be taken. They even moved 4 times to avoid being located. Quickly, Flor de Lis and Anderson became news in the country and their story began to be reported by several newspapers. With this, many influential people as politicians and artists learned about the story and decided to buy the fight and help the couple. They also began to receive numerous donations from ordinary people who were touched by their story. Thanks to all the support, the couple managed to stabilize and decided to make their marriage official in 1998, and in the following year, in 1999, they officially founded the Flor de Lis Evangelical Community in the Rocha neighborhood, north zone of Rio de Janeiro, which was later transferred to the city of São Gonçalo in the year 2000. In addition to the support they got, they also gained fame and consequently resources that helped them to legalize the adoption of all their adopted children and started to live in a bigger and better house in Rio Comprido, neighborhood in north zone of Rio de Janeiro. The family already had more than 30 people and later become more than 50 with the new children that the couple welcomed. It is said that Flavio, Flor de Lis' biological son, didn't like the situation very much. He was jealous of his mother in relation to the other adopted children. He even went to live for a while with his grandmother, Flor de Lis' mother. Simone, Flor de Lis' biological daughter and Anderson's ex-girlfriend, didn't like the situation very much either. but she preferred to stay with her mother. From the year 2000 onwards, the couple opened 5 more branches of the Flor de Lis ministry. They were all regarded and well known throughout the city of Rio de Janeiro. The couple, who were born in one of the most violent favelas in Rio, now frequented the capital's most high society places and always alongside important figures. Anderson has always been smart and articulate and knew he could accomplish much more by tapping into this connection with important people. He was also the head of the family. He was the one who took care of all the financial part and their image in the spotlight, and it is said that he was very strict with all of them. In 2009, the documentary film Flor de Lis, Just a Word to Change, was released, which tells the story of Flor de Lis and how she fought to help needy and helpless children. The film had a strong cast with several famous actors who didn't charge a fee because, according to them, the film is for a good cause, and all of the money that was raised, it was donated to Flor de Lis and her fight for the children. Despite the film having a great cast and having a moving story, it was massacred by critics who said that the film was too forced and the scenes were too disconnected from the reality it was trying to show. However, the film managed to make Flor de Lis known throughout Brazil, and with that, Anderson do Carmo saw a great opportunity. He got good contacts in the midst of the biggest labels in the country and closed a contract for the release of Flor de Lis CD, which until then had only recorded songs on her own. With this contract, Flor de Lis became part of the label's team of artists and toured throughout Brazil and on some occasions even abroad. She had a career as an artist. She was no longer just a preacher. Anderson began to impose a condition on his wife's performances. He would have to do the opening preaching. In the sermon, he gave his testimony of how the couple met and their struggle to help helpless children. Anderson also took advantage of the woman's booming career to launch her into politics, and in 2004, she applied for the position of councillor for the city of São Gonçalo in Rio de Janeiro. She obtained 2,262 valid votes, but it was not enough to be elected. In 2010, Flor de Lis signed a contract with MK Music, the biggest gospel music label in Brazil, and released her album, Fogo e Unção. In 2012, she released another album titled Questiona ou Adora, which sold over 80,000 copies, earning her the platinum record. In the following years, she released 5 more albums in partnership with MK Music, which in the year 2020 announced the end of their contract with her. In 2016, she tried to run for mayor in the city of São Gonçalo, but she was placed as a deputy by the party, and so she decided not to run anymore. In that same election, she supported her son Maisel, who ran for councillor also in São Gonçalo, being elected with more than 4,000 votes. In March 2018, Anderson and Flor de Lis were targeted by crooks. At the time, Anderson said he had a deliverance from God, as the bandits were unable to steal them, and also said that even with so much violence, he still believed in restoring people. Also in 2018, Flor de Lis was a candidate for federal deputy, winning the elections with more than 196,000 votes, becoming the most voted woman in the state of Rio de Janeiro. By then, the couple Anderson and Flor de Lis were already quite influential and were gaining more and more space in high society. However, a crime would change all of that, bringing with it startling revelations and leaving many Brazilians astonished. On June 16, 2019, at around 4 a.m., Anderson do Carmo was shot several times as soon as he arrived at his home in the city of Niterói. He was accompanied by Flor de Lis, who had just returned from a get-together. According to her, a few kilometers ago, she had the feeling that they were being followed by 2 motorcycles, but she didn't say anything to her husband because she thought it was nothing. Anderson was taken to the Niterói's hospital, but did not survive his injuries. At first, the police began to work with the hypothesis of a robbery followed by death. However, as investigations progressed, they were moving away from this hypothesis. Something that the police found very strange was the fact that Anderson was shot 30 times, and one of those shots was fired near the right ear at a short distance, indicating that it was more an execution than a robbery. Flor de Lis claimed that she only heard 6 shots, a much smaller number compared to 30. How could she not hear the other 24 shots when she was very close to the scene? She spoke publicly a few hours after the crime. On her words, she said, "I just went for a walk with my husband, that's all. A walk that ended up that way, losing his life to try to protect the house, the family. What he tried was to prevent them from opening the garage door and entering the house. He sacrificed his life for his family, not allowing them to enter the house." For the police, something was not right. Even with the high rate of violence that ravages Rio de Janeiro, they knew that this was a bit out of the ordinary for a robbery. On June 18, 2019, 2 days after the crime, Lucas Cesar dos Santos de Souza, one of Flor de Lis' adopted children, confessed in a statement that he killed Anderson at the behest of his brother, Flavio Rodriguez de Souza, Flor de Lis's biological son. He decided to confess after the police showed him security camera footage in which he appeared at the crime scene. According to Lucas, the motive for the crime would be on account of an alleged extramarital relationship by Anderson do Carmo. From that point onwards, the police began to uncover a network of lies, intrigue, and betrayal by a family that many consider to be perfect. It is very important that from now on, you pay close attention to understand better, because the stories and events are very complex and they involve many people. On June 20, 2019, 4 days after the crime, Flavio Rodriguez de Souza, Flor de Lis's biological son, admitted in a testimony that he had shot Anderson 6 times. According to Flavio, his brother and accomplice, Lucas helped him acquire the weapon used in the crime. That same day, the Justice of Rio de Janeiro accepted the request of the civil police and ordered the temporary arrest of Lucas and Flavio. On June 25, 2019, the police searched the Flor de Lis's family's home, where they seized more than 40 cell phones that could contain evidence that would help the investigations. However, the police were unable to locate the cell phones belonging to the victim, Anderson do Carmo, and accused Flavio Rodriguez de Souza. Questioned by the police, Flor de Lis said she didn't know the whereabouts of the devices. On June 26, 2019, police discovered that victim's Anderson do Carmo's cell phone was used hours after his death. The person who used Anderson's cell phone sent messages to a group of family friends, identifying as Anderson and Flor de Lis's son. In the messages, that person worded unfortunately the news was true and informed the place where the crime took place. On August 16, 2019, 2 months after the crime, Lucas, one of the accused, told the police that he received messages sent from Flor de Lis's own cell phone asking him to kill Anderson do Carmo. According to him, he tried to call her phone, but she didn't answer, so he decided to show her the messages that would have been very nervous with him. On August 20, 2019, Maria Edna do Carmo, mother of the victim Anderson do Carmo, revealed in a statement to the police that she learned that her son was having an affair with one of Flor de Lis's daughters. Now, all that remained was to know if she was a biological or adopted daughter, remembering that Anderson had already dated Simone, Flor de Lis's only biological daughter. Later, the police discovered through the testimonies of several of Flor de Lis's adopted children that love relationships and betrayals between siblings were common in the house. On November 16, 2019, the former employer of the accused, Lucas, told the police that Flor de Lis tried to coerce her adopted son to change his version of the crime. Flor de Lis denied having done so. The police began to investigate further and cautiously, even more so because Flor de Lis is a parliamentarian, and everyone knows how difficult it is to put influential behind bars for any crime whatsoever. They collected all possible information that could lead them to solve the crime completely. In that time, many absurd things were revealed by the members of Flor de Lis's family. It was common knowledge that Flor de Lis has 4 biological children, being 3 before meeting Anderson and 1 son that he presented to everyone as being their only biological child. The 4 biological children are Flavio, Adriano, and Simone, who she had before meeting Anderson, and lastly Daniel, who everyone thought was the couple's biological son. However, it was discovered that Daniel was not their son, but that he was adopted when he was just a baby. According to the police, Daniel's biological mother delivered the child to Flor de Lis as soon as he left the maternity ward, and then she and Anderson went to register the boy in another city, claiming that he was born at home. The police also discovered that the treatment given to the children in the house was different. The children of the so-called first generation, who were 8 in total, and had only the biological children and the first ones who were adopted, had access to the best food and best rooms in the house compared to the other 47 adopted children. It was also discovered that Anderson and Flor de Lis used to go to swinging clubs, and that on the day of the crime, they were returning from one of these clubs. Of course, this is no crime, but it goes against everything they preached and the image they wanted to convey. It also came to the light that one of the Flor de Lis's adopted daughters, Mercy Teixeira da Silva, was tasked with hiring someone to kill Anderson, and that she even did internet searches, but was unsuccessful. One of Flor de Lis's adopted children testified that she visited his room to have sex with him. He said it was constant and then it decreased until it stopped completely when he started dating. Also, according to him, Flor de Lis offered her adopted daughters to have sex with foreign pastors who visited the family's home in Rio de Janeiro. All this as a form of reception to please them. The boy left the house in the year 2000 after marrying a girl he met at the church led by Anderson and Flor de Lis. A person who lived in Anderson and Flor de Lis's house and who did not want to be identified said that the couple had sexual relations with their adopted children and that both were colluding with each other. That same person also stated that the couple communicated in codes with the privileged children of the family. The objective was to prevent other family members from understanding what they were talking about. On August 24, 2020, more than a year after the crime, the Civil Police and the Public Ministry of Rio de Janeiro denounced Flor de Lis as the mastermind behind her husband's murder. But because she was a parliamentarian and had privileged jurisdiction, she was not arrested. According to investigations, Flor de Lis had been planning Anderson's death since 2018. According to the police, she tried to kill her husband at least 4 times, including poisoning his food with arsenic. In messages exchanged between Flor de Lis and one of her children who were discovered by the police, she states that it was better to kill Anderson because divorcing from him would not do an image and she would scandalize the name of God. Another 10 people were also denounced for involvement in the crime, all directly or indirectly linked to Flor de Lis. This crime caused a rift in the family. Several children were against Flor de Lis and left her home cutting ties with her. Maiso, Flor de Lis's adopted son and who was supported by her in the 2016 municipal elections in São Gonçalo, in which he won for a councillor, also cut ties with his mother and even changed his political name to Wagner Pimenta. The investigation concluded that Anderson do Carmel was killed for financial reasons and power in the family, as he controlled all the money of the Flor de Lis's ministry, now renamed Comunidade Evangélica Cidade do Fogo. All those involved in Anderson do Carmel's death have already been arrested, with the exception of Flor de Lis, who has a parliamentary immunity and could only be arrested if caught in the act for a crime without a possibility of bail. Well folks, that was today's story. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Best wishes, and I'll see you next time.